Hello there! My name is Kaylee from Where in the World is Kaylee, and today I'm going to be discussing how the law protects you as a tenant in the Czech Republic. I am a Canadian citizen and have been living in Prague, Czech Republic for over a year now. Like many other expats and even Czech citizens, I have recently been having some issues with my landlord. She's trying to increase my rent a huge amount with pretty much no notice, and has threatened that if I don't agree to pay more money, then I will be evicted with, again, not very much notice. So I have spent hours and hours researching the civil code here in the Czech Republic, and I did have the assistance of my boyfriend who made sure that all of my translations from Czech to English were actually correct. So I figured since I spent all my time researching this, why should anybody else have to? And I should just go over all the information that I have and I guess make the video that I wish existed at the beginning of this week when I started this very, very long process. So as I said, I will start by going over how the law protects you as a tenant. I should mention at the very beginning of this that there are two types of contracts. There is a limited contract and an unlimited contract. A limited contract would be when it's for a specific amount of time, such as a 1-year period. An unlimited contract would be when there is no end date on the contract. So if the contract at no point has an end date in it, then it is for sure an unlimited contract. Throughout this entire video, I'm going to be continually referencing Civil Code 89/2012. So I'm going to cover all of the most relevant laws to my own situation, as well as ones that do not necessarily apply to me, but when I was looking through the Civil Code, I thought that seems helpful and it would probably help other people. So in my opinion, the most important part of this Civil Code is Article 2249. It states that a landlord can request a rent increase up to market value based on the condition and location of the flat. However, they must be able to prove that that is in fact the correct market value. They can't just make up the market value. It also states that rent cannot be increased more than 20% over a 3-year period and only once in a 12-month period. If the tenant agrees to rent increase, they will start paying a new price 3 months from the first day of the next calendar month after the increase was suggested. If the tenant does not agree to the rent increase, they have 60 days to inform the landlord and dispute that, and then the landlord has 90 days to submit the issue to court. One thing to note is that if you have a limited contract, at the end of the contract, the landlord has the right to completely change the agreement when creating a new contract and does not need to stay within the guidelines of the 20% over 3 years. However, unless stated otherwise in your contract, if the landlord or tenant does not change or cancel the contract 3 months prior to the contract ending, then the contract automatically renews with the same rules for the same length of time, according to Article 2285. Article 2237 states that the contract should be in written form. However, the landlord can't object to the validity of a verbal contract without a written form. So this shows that a verbal contract is legally binding in the Czech Republic. You should have no issues proving a verbal contract, assuming you have either proof of past rent payment or written correspondence between yourself and the landlord where you discuss the price of rent. This will likely only be useful to those of you who do not have a written contract, but according to Article 2204, if an end date is not agreed upon at the start of the contract, it is considered an indefinite contract. There is a very common scam in the Czech Republic where the landlord tries to change the agreement on the payment of utilities. So at the start of the contract, they gave you a price including utilities, and then partway through the contract, they tried to keep the same price and not have utilities included. So give you the same price and then add a significant amount more money for utilities. There is, of course, an article in the Civil Code that protects you. Article 2247 states that the landlord shall provide necessary services, water, heat, television, access to television, electricity, all of those things, and that the parties must agree on pricing before service is provided. So that means halfway through your contract, they can't change the price. If your contract is set up where you pay a certain amount for rent, an additional amount for utilities, for example, 10,000 crowns rent plus 2,000 crowns utilities, then the landlord must be able to show proof of cost of services. The landlord has the right to charge you extra if you go over that amount at the end of one calendar year. However, the same applies if you do not use that amount, then they do have to give you the money back. According to Article 2286, the landlord can only terminate the contract with legal cause, and the tenant has the right to dispute it. And the termination will be examined by the court. Termination of contract must be written and given with 3 months' notice, starting from the first of the next calendar month. For example, if the landlord is trying to evict you so they can start charging more rent, that is something that is easily disputed and would be resolved in court, because of course that is not a legal reason to evict somebody or to cancel a contract. The landlord is also not allowed to change the locks on the flat according to Article 2209, and if the contract has been terminated, Article 2254 protects the tenants from landlords keeping their security deposit. So they do have to give it back. Unfortunately, it doesn't say a timeline. It says within a reasonable amount of time that they must give it back, but there doesn't really clarify what a reasonable amount of time is. Articles 2272 through 2275 state that the tenant has the right to allow anyone to live with them, but must inform the landlord within 2 months of them moving in. If stated in the contract, the landlord can limit the number of tenants to what is reasonable for the size of the flat. A tenant may lease part of the flat without consent to a third party, as long as they will continue to live there. On the other hand, if the tenant will be moving out and will be subleasing the entire flat, they do need to have written consent from the landlord. If there is a defect or something in need of repair in your flat, the landlord has the right to inspect it first, but must make repairs immediately, or the tenant has the right to a discount according to Articles 2208 and 2214. So now that I have covered all the ways that the law protects you that I found the most important, I'm going to tell the story of, what made me research this, what I'm doing about it, and how I hope it's going to turn out. I moved into my flat as a roommate of the person holding the lease in September 2016. In October 2016, with about 1 week's notice, my roommates decided to move out and put me in contact with the landlord of the flat. The landlord and I messaged each other back and forth and made an agreement of a price for me to take over the flat, which was 12,000 crowns, including all expenses such as water, electricity, and internet. We also decided that there would be no extras for utility overages, as the rent was all-inclusive. I should point out that I did not get a rent decrease for having less people living here. I'm one person as opposed to the 3 people who were previously living here. Normally in the Czech Republic you do get a discount based on the number of people, but as I stated, my rent was all-inclusive, so I didn't get a discount. I took over the flat officially at the start of November 2016, and on multiple occasions my landlord and I discussed having me sign a contract, but she never ended up having one written up for me to sign. This of course means that we have a legally binding verbal contract, which I have proof of with past payments of rent, as well as our entire message history on Facebook. Luckily for me, we have had almost all of our conversations through Facebook rather than texting, so I didn't have to hold on to any text messages because obviously Facebook keeps all of your previous messages. When I took over the flat, we never specified a date that the apartment would be unavailable to me, meaning that this is technically an indefinite contract. So in February 2017, 3 months after I took over the apartment, my landlord raised the rent 500 crowns with about 1 week's notice, which I now know is definitely illegal. From February 2016 until October 2017, we had no more discussions about the price of rent. On October 25th, 2017, my landlord messaged me informing me that she had spoke with a real estate agent friend of hers, and that her friend had informed her that she was definitely not charging me enough rent. According to her friend, the flat should be 12,500 crowns with utilities on top of that. And she also told me that utilities would be 4,000 crowns in addition to what I'm already paying. I have asked around to a few different people, and they have assured me that 4,000 crowns for utilities for one person is absolutely ridiculous, and there is no way that that is what I have been using. So essentially what my landlord tried to do was raise my rent from 12,500 crowns to 16,500 crowns, which is 32%, much higher than the 20% allowed, and she only gave me 1 week's notice. She also had already raised my rent 9 months previously, which of course means she can't raise it for another 3 months, and that is going to be bringing from the 12,000 that I started at to the 16,500 that she wants me to be paying now would be 37.5%, so almost twice what is legally allowed over a 3-year period. She tried to raise in 9 months. I of course informed my landlord that I would not be paying that much rent because that is way too much for my flat and way too much to expect in 1 week for me to pull together an extra 4,000 crowns. And I informed her that there's just not a chance that I was willing to pay that. So she informed me that I would need to move out by the end of November. When she said this, she was well aware of the fact that I am going to be out of the country for almost the entirety of November, and of course would not be able to be finding a new flat from Canada. So to me, this was definitely her taking advantage of a situation that I was in, being foreign in the Czech Republic, and of course trying to, I guess, bully me into paying more rent than what I was willing to pay by threatening me with eviction and essentially homelessness, since obviously when I'm in Canada, I can't move. Of course, my landlord is not allowed to evict me for not agreeing to an illegal rent increase, and even if she was, she would still have to give me 3 months notice. Since I am not the type of person to back down or let somebody get away with bullying me or trying to take advantage of me, I just sat down and started doing my research. There's no way that I am going to be convinced that I should be paying way more money than what this flat is worth. So I went through all of the civil codes, pulled out all the ones that were most important to my situation, and I wrote my landlord a large message proving pretty much everything I've gone over in this video. So basically, my advice would be only have written contact going forward. So only talk through messages or letters, probably even text, any of that which is written proof of what you spoke about. Quote the law as much as possible and give the civil code and article after each part of the law that you talk about. Make it clear that you are refusing the rent increase. Make it clear that you're refusing an eviction notice and that you will not do either without it being court ordered. I mean, if you know that what they're doing is illegal and that they can't do it, then tell them that, because tell them you're breaking the law and I'm not going to accept it. And I have told my landlord many, many times that I will not be bullied into paying way more rent than I should be, purely because she thinks she has me in a bad situation because I'm out of the country. Anyways, that is my story. Thank you so much for watching. As I said earlier, I will link all relevant pages down below. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments and I will do my absolute best to try to answer them. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up because that does help me out a lot. And if you would like to see more videos about my experience being an expat or travel vlogs of usually me and my dog Athena traveling around Prague, Europe, wherever it is that we are, then definitely subscribe because I make new videos every Thursday.